Hey everyone, before we start the show, I just want to tell you about pristineauction.com. Daily auctions ending every single night with hundreds of items perfect for your man cave. Everything is certified, it's all authentic, and it's definitely affordable. It's free to register, it's free to bid, you only pay when you win. So go to pristineauction.com, let them know that you heard about it from SleeperWire. That's Pristine auction.com.
I challenge you to a duel.
It's the only argument I need!
I don't want to talk to you no more, you...
You got a lot of nerve.
Soon you will know what it is like to be defeated.
Stop defending him, Sean!
All right, let's go.
I'm ready for
Hey sleepers, and welcome to the SleeperWire Great Debate show, where we do a fast debate between two players. I'm your host, Professor Chris, and with me once again, my lovely host and the lovely host of the Dash Radio show, Nick Sumrall. What's going on, Nick?
Hey, great to be back here today, and what an exciting great debate we have for the fans today.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. We are actually doing rookies for the first time this season.
Yeah, something, you've hesitated on doing, but I understand your hesitation. There's not a lot of game tape, obviously, other than what we've seen in preseason and in college, but, college is such a, not really as telling, as what we see in real time.
Right,
NFL
absolutely.
speed. All right. Well, who are we going to be debating, though, today, Chris?
Well, before we get into that, what we're going to be doing is having an actual debate-style argument between these two players. We're going to spend a few minutes arguing for our player, about 90 seconds for rebuttals, and then wrap it up with final thoughts. So this is our last great debate on who you would rather draft before we get into the season, and we're doing Christian McCaffrey versus Dalvin Cook. I've got Christian McCaffrey, Nick has Dalvin Cook, and we're going to go ahead and jump right into this. Alright, so this is the first great debate we're having over rookies this season, as I said. I tried to put it off since we don't know a whole lot about them at this point, but Nick did talk me into debating rookies, so here we go. First off, I'm going to start by saying that I don't think I'm going to have either of these guys on my team, and that's purely because of the draft price that you have to pay for these two rookies. They're currently going at the 2.11 and the 3.01, so they're only 2 picks apart, so I'm not even going to bring up ADPs as an argument for either guy, since they're so close it doesn't matter. Getting into McCaffrey, this guy was phenomenal for Stanford in his last 2 seasons. In 2015, played 14 games, rushing 337 times for 2,019 yards and 8 touchdowns, adding 45 catches for 645 yards and 5 touchdowns. Last year, in only 11 games, he rushed for 253 carries, 1,603 yards, 13 touchdowns, also adding 37 catches for 3 touchdowns. So far this preseason, the Panthers haven't really used Christian McCaffrey much, but when he's been in the game, he's looked really good. 7 rushes for 33 yards the first game, 3 for 33, including a 17-yard touchdown the second game, and 7 rushes for 21 yards to average 5.1 yards per carry this preseason. This guy looks explosive. He puts defenders on skates with his jukes and shakes. He makes veterans just look silly out there. The Panthers took Christian McCaffrey with the 8th overall pick this year in the 2017 draft, as the second running back off the board after only Leonard Fournette. The Panthers have the 12th ranked offensive line heading into the 2017 season, according to Pro Football Focus, which is still pretty good. Even though it's number 12, that's still pretty great. After finishing as the number 17 offensive line in 2016, the team went out, they spent a second-round pick on Taylor Moton, one of the highest-graded offensive linemen at both the tackle and guard positions in college. Christian McCaffrey has the ability to be huge in PPR leagues this year. Cam Newton has basically said that he's still going to run even if the coaches don't want him to. That's his game. That means defenders are going to have to pay attention to Cam Newton just as much as anyone else on that offense. I know Jonathan Stewart is still there. They paid him this offseason. But a team doesn't draft a running back 8th overall to not use him. McCaffrey is going to be in the game. He's going to be catching passes. And he's going to be running the ball. The Panthers last season ranked 8th overall in percentage of runs stuffed. All right, let's go ahead and move over to your rebuttal against Christian McCaffrey.
All right, so you brought up a lot of great points about Christian McCaffrey. And listen, as an athlete, I appreciate everything he can do. I think he's really explosive and a gadget guy. But here's my problem. You said you didn't want to touch into ADP. I'm going to touch a little into ADP because I don't like where you're getting Christian McCaffrey in the end of the second round because he's not going to be a bell cow workhorse back like some of these other rookies that we know are getting drafted around the same area, including the guy I'll be talking about in a little bit. You consider that, yes, he's there as the 8th overall pick, so you figure they have to use him. But, what are we looking at here? Maybe 160 touches, and they better be explosive. That's what I'm projecting, at least for him for this season. You did mention Jonathan Stewart. You did mention Cam Newton wanting to run despite the coaches not wanting to. So they're going to take away red zone touches and get probably some touchdowns. And I'm not a fan of that. So basically, you're relying on him in solely almost PPR to get the catches. And that's not what I want a second round price tag to get. Give me Leonard Fournette in the second round over Christian McCaffrey any day. Give me, even Kareem Hunt, who's just become the starter now with Spencer Ware injured. I'll take those guys any day over Christian McCaffrey. He's a nice ad. He's got a lot of explosiveness to him. But count me out for Christian McCaffrey. I'm not going to take a guy who's not going to be the bell cow there. And he's a smaller guy.
All right, there you got our thoughts for and against Christian McCaffrey. Let's move over to Dalvin Cook. Nick, take it away.
So, Dalvin Cook, here's my thinking. You said he was going in the third round, round first pick. It's a high price tag. I agree. But again, as I mentioned in my argument against Christian McCaffrey, this is why I like Dalvin Cook. He's a 3-down back. The guy is extremely explosive, especially in college. He got hurt by his combine numbers, which were unimpressive, and made people question maybe what he did in college won't translate to what he will do in the NFL. But that's ridiculous. I mean, and you look at his preseason stats, they're nothing extraordinary, really. But, he was already announced as the starter, even despite adding Latavius Murray in the offseason. You look at his stats, and he had 17 attempts, 70 yards, with 6 catches for a total of 35 yards. Not impressive, but he started with the ones. He started limited series with the ones in preseason, might I add, as well. So this is all in some limited touches. And I'm excited for what we get with Dalvin Cook. The offensive line is a concern. I understand. Finished last in the league last year, but they made some improvements, bringing in some offensive tackles, drafting a center in the third round. So maybe they can bump it up a little bit to be average. But I don't think this guy really needs the offensive line to be elite, like, say Dallas or Tennessee or Raiders. I think he can do it all. I mean, he's a pass-catching guy. The only concern I have is him losing some red zone touches to Latavius Murray. But I still think the guy is dynamic enough where he can get open in space. He can run screens, and he's just I just like the guy. This is a guy I'm targeting as my RB2, and I'm just really excited for the opportunities he's going to get there. We look also for Dalvin Cook. I mean, he's been getting nothing but hype and good praises during training camp, OTAs. Last season in college, let's just look at the numbers real quick. He totaled 2,253 total yards of scrimmage with 20 total touchdowns. Now, that's college, but that's nothing to scoff at. I mean, he played Florida State, who played nothing but some of the best college football.
All right, a lot of good stuff about Dalvin Cook in there. Let's go ahead and jump into the rebuttal here. Let me start off by saying that Dalvin Cook was my favorite running back out of this draft class, until I saw that the Minnesota Vikings drafted him with the 9th pick in the second round, after signing Latavius Murray. Since you touched on ADP, I will too. First pick in the third round for a guy who is going to be in a committee. He's not going to be the bell cow workhorse guy that you want him to be. Latavius Murray has been working exceptionally hard this offseason to become a better player. He's good on the goal line in short yardage situations. He's solid as a pass protector, but he's been working on lowering his pads when running, which is going to give him more yards on each run, and improving his game in the receiving backfield. Murray signed a 3-year, $15 million contract with the Vikings last year. That tells me they're going to use him. This is very likely going to be a committee. The Vikings had the 29th offensive line in 2016, which is absolutely terrible. They ranked 27th in run stuffed percentage at 12.1, and that's percentage of times that running backs are hit at the line or behind. They were 22nd in negative rushing yards at 102 compared to the Panthers' 90, and that was with running the ball 73 fewer times than the Panthers. Obviously, a team that runs the ball 73 more times should have more run stuffed. Makes sense, right? Not even close here. The Vikings line is terrible. They only had 9 rushing touchdowns in 2016 as a team, good for 26th in the league. In a committee with a terrible offensive line, Dalvin Cook can easily have a struggling season for fantasy. Alright guys, before we wrap it up with our final thoughts, I've got one more thing to mention. As you know, we gave away an Antonio Brown jersey a couple weeks ago, but don't worry. If you didn't win, we're going to have some more amazing contests that we're going to be running. To do this, we need your help. I'm giving a special shout out to another sponsor of the Great Debate Show, Fantasy Champs. We have a special offer for 10% off an order at fantasychamps.com. They offer the absolute best hardware for your fantasy football league, championship trophies, championship rings, championship belts. They even offer loser trophies, and they have draft boards for your fantasy football draft. Go to fantasychamps.com and use the promo code SLEEPERS for 10% off your order. All right, guys, we're going to move back into our final thoughts. So getting back to Christian McCaffrey here. As I mentioned when I was, before I got cut off by the buzzer, the Panthers ranked 8th overall in percentage of run stuffed last year, a stat that I just brought up in a rebuttal against Dalvin Cook, only getting stuffed on 8.4% of runs. As I said, run stuffed is the percentage of time that running backs are hit at the line or behind it. On the season, the Panthers only lost 90 yards rushing the entire year, which is less than 6 negative yards per game. That's actually really good, especially when you consider that they had the 7th most rushing attempts. This offensive line is a lot better than they get credit for. Last year, the Panthers ran the 12th most plays in the red zone, and they ran the ball 51.7% of the time inside the opponent's 20. That was in a down year offensively for Cam Newton and the Panthers. I think Newton bounces back this season. 2015, when they had a super efficient offense, they ran the most plays in the red zone. Even if the Panthers only bounce back a little bit, they should still be in the top 10 in red zone plays run, which is pretty good. As I said earlier, the 2-3 turn is early for both of these guys, in my own personal opinion. However, if you're there and both of these guys have fallen to the middle to end of the 3rd round, I don't think you can go wrong with McCaffrey out of these two guys.
All right. Well, I will talk about Dalvin Cook in my final thoughts. You mentioned a lot of things against Dalvin Cook that I'd like to dispute. I mean, first off, you say he's going to be in a committee. I'm sorry, but if Latavius Murray was getting so much better, why would he lose the job as the first team running back before even training camps opened up?
Well, he's been injured.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, but why would they say that Dalvin Cook is our starter? Why would they just say, well, Dalvin Cook's going to get first-team reps until Latavius Murray comes back? I mean, that's my thought. Yes, will they use Latavius Murray on goal line situations? I do believe that. Will they use Jerick McKinnon sometimes in passing downs? I do believe that. But I don't think it's going to be enough that we say, oh, well, Dalvin Cook's not a workhorse back or in a committee. And the other thing is you brought up a lot of great stats last year about, Vikings running game last year. But let's look at who they had last year. I mean, Adrian Peterson, who's an aging Adrian Peterson, not in his prime, and they didn't have Latavius Murray. They had Jerick McKinnon there, who I think has been nothing but a disappointment for them. He can't handle a full workload. And then I don't remember who else they had running out there with them, but it was all garbage, which is why they had to bring in Dalvin Cook with the 9th pick in the 2nd round, which is why they had to sign Latavius Murray. They had to boost up that running game because it was so terrible. So I believe that this year their run game is going to be better. Bradford will just be there to manage game. The defense is already one of their best assets. So I do believe that Dalvin Cook this year is the back that you want in the 3rd round.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of The Great Debate. Couple final things before we go. We have a new home at Dash Radio. Listen to Nick, Mickey, and I every Friday on Dash Radio from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again over the weekend. It's internet radio, so either through your computer or through your computer online or through the app. I also want to encourage you guys to go to SleeperWire.com, check out our weekly rankings. You can submit a question to the SleeperWire crew as well. You can find us on Twitter at SleeperWire Show. I'm on there at CMOR SleeperWire, and Nick is SleeperWire Nick. I'm on SleeperBot at Professor Chris, and Nick is on there at SW Nick. Fantasy Life at Professor Chris and SleeperWire Nick, and I'm also on Instagram at Professor Chris SW. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
I'm ready for us.